Hello, welcome back to another City Skylines 2 discussion video. Last time I talked about City Skylines 2 was before the game even released, and I was like, hey, look out everyone, you might want to wait for a bit before buying it, which had a really interesting reception at the time, but obviously I'm back now because City Skylines 2's player base has declined a bunch recently. We'll talk more about why that is specifically. City Skylines 2 also just had a new DLC release, which is literally the worst rated thing on Steam, and understandably. There are also a bunch of performance improvements, and there's a big update to go along with it too. Not without a bunch of drama too, though. The whole premise of this video is asking, is City Skylines 2 doomed? And like, I hope not, because I loved City Skylines 1, and I think City Skylines 2 has the potential to maybe be a great game at some point. It's just clearly not there yet. Now that they've added mod support, and now that they've gotten around to improving the performance a bunch more, players still are gonna take their time to come back, as we're seeing. I mean, I think I'm among the people who are just very deeply disappointed by City Skylines 2. I love this article from Hard Drive, by the way. Ben Shapiro assures City Skylines 2 players they can sell beachfront properties if waters rise. That's really funny. Just to start from the beginning, before City Skylines 2 released, there's a bunch of weird press releases around Paradox just giving people a bunch of warnings like, the performance is bad and we're looking to improve it. This game won't have mods. It won't have the Steam Workshop for mod support, but we're working on fixing all of that. They weren't lying because eventually they did get around to it a solid 5 months later. The state of the game at release was very much a performance is crippled and it could be a great game, but everyone knows that there's a lot that they maybe had to rush in order to get this game out. Some people are saying maybe even in order to make their quarterlies look better for their investors after having to buy down the losses from the Lamplighters League, I believe, which would be annoying if that's the whole reason why this game was bottlenecked. Instead of this game releasing with a bunch of hype, it released with a bunch of question marks. Like, where is this game going to go? How long are they actually going to take to fix a lot of the most pressing issues? Even people who kind of built their channel around City Skylines were very openly questioning a lot of bugs around the engine, a lot of bugs around, you know, obviously performance, but also about citizen calculation, about things like land value calculation that didn't seem to update correctly. And there was this one period of time where City Skylines 2 developers over at Colossal Order had this spat with the community where they were like, we're not going to want to interact publicly with any of you if we feel like we're being attacked to the degree that we are, which is a great way to get people on your side. I understand the frustration of being a developer and having to meet all of these targets and then also having to try to communicate with a community that's openly hostile to the game that you're working on. To be clear, I'd never support actually attacking individual developers or anything. But that being said, a lot of what they were complaining about felt like a very understandable criticisms being levied at the game and at the studios themselves. It still led to really bad optics of being defensive when what people really wanted was more assurances, was to see more progress, maybe just to see even all of the work that they were trying to do to address performance issues, game engine issues, actually adding mods into the game. For a lot of people, and myself included, it felt frustrating that their priorities didn't seem to be in that sort of place. Come to find out a few months later that they were actually working on one of the worst DLCs of all time. At least according to City Planner Plays, who literally called it the worst DLC for any City Skylines game ever created.
I'm gonna be upfront with you and say that I think that this is the worst add-on content that has ever come out for a City Skylines game.
Which is a pretty high bar when some of the DLCs are literally just music. It's kind of funny. Again, it's literally the worst rated thing on Steam. You can see a bunch of articles about how unhappy people are about this DLC. And if you really look at it, it's like there's a couple of ferns and there's like a bunch of cookie cutter houses. Like some of them look good. Again, like City Planner Plays pointed out, they're not even specifically beachfront like exclusive, or they would fit in, but they're sort of just generic mostly. And a lot of the models are literally copy pasted from one over to the other, and it's $10. Maybe if we're being generous, this should be a flavor pack for like 99 cents or something. Like, I'm not even kidding. Now that it's been about 5-6 months since this game's been out and release, it's really been difficult for the developers and the community to find some sort of happy compensatory ground. And you can just look at the active player bases now. The player bases of Cities Skylines 2 are to less than 10,000 people actively on average. You can see the chart just going down and down and down month by month as people eventually lose enthusiasm over Cities Skylines 2. Whereas Cities Skylines 1 is still pretty static and maybe even growing in player base if we're really looking at it. Yeah, it just felt like a bad release coupled with a bad, quiet 5-6 months, and then just like a really poorly received DLC with terrible optics around it that's really making people super upset with Cities Skylines 2. So the real question is Cities Skylines doomed? Is there any chance that they can come back from this gap in players, or is it going to be like an Impure to Rome situation where players just abandon the game and then the developers eventually have to too? I really want Cities Skylines 2 to be a good game. I really want to like this game, and there are a ton of things that I like about it over Cities Skylines 1 now that I've had a chance to play it. Like, there are cities that I built up and then had fun playing, but it's still just such a flawed, incredibly flawed game. I had a bunch of performance issues back when I actually played it a fair bit, and then I, like a lot of other players, just kind of stopped playing it, especially with the lack of updates, the lack of communication from the studios, from the developers, especially since mods took so long to be added. I really wanted it to be a good game, but I eventually fell off of playing it like a lot of other people did too. So now that this next update is out and you can actually grab some mods for Cities Skylines 2, I think that in and of itself will help retain a lot more players like me who just need a lot of mod support to really enjoy the game. Especially, I would love more control around intersections and also modifying how like the game engine works in some sort of ways. Custom maps, things like that. That would all be great. The mod browser looks a lot better than I was expecting it to be. I'm pretty hopeful that they can keep a lot of players like me around, at least, who find a lot of enjoyment from messing around with mods and just improving their gameplay experience in that sort of way. There are also a bunch of legitimate performance improvements too. City Planner Plays made this sort of graph of them that I'll also show in this video, since his video is really the first one that I saw that was detailing this whole update and DLC release. Maybe there's some signs that players are going to get back into it. Really, with any major update, whether it's good or not, you're going to stimulate the community and get more people involved and interested in it. And I think the fact that they're still updating the game here and there and still trying to make it a comprehensive experience is fantastic. Like they're really trying to make this a game that people want to come back to and play more with some added features and updates. The fact that they're not giving up on it is the main thing that makes me think that it could grow after this. But there's also a lot of negative signs too. Like, if you look at Paradox's stock performance, which we know Paradox cares about a lot, their stock performance has only gone down since the beginning of the year. I have to imagine some of that, at least indirectly. I don't know what's going on in the mind of investors, but at least some of it indirectly has to be because of lowering player counts for games like Cities Skylines 2, which they expected to do a lot better. Even Paradox themselves said that they're not happy with the quality of Cities Skylines 2 and how it released. The community mostly seems to be super negative around the current state of Cities Skylines 2 even still. You talk to the average Cities Skylines 2 player and it's like they took too long to get mods out, the performance took too long to be improved, we didn't have any major updates for months. There is excitement around the update and even some around the DLC too, but it's mostly just a lot of resentment. Again, you can just go on to the Steam Workshop and read a bunch of reviews. Here you are, your beach DLC without beach related content. Such an absolutely low quality DLC. LOL the price, honestly I can't believe you want 10 USD for this. I think there's a lot of potential even still, just as long as they keep working on it for it to rebuild into a game where like the player base is actively actively growing and excited about the state of the game. But at the same time, there's so much goodwill that's been lost, both with them coming back with their first major update in a while and then blindsiding people with a $10 improperly priced DLC. I don't know why they think this justifies $9.99. It's hard to say prescriptively, but I think the game that this is kind of starting to look like is maybe Imperator Rome, which, as we know, they abandoned since not a lot of people were playing it after a certain period of time. I would love to be proven wrong as far as that goes, but obviously I would not recommend buying their $9.99 asset pack DLC. That really should be 99 cents. And I hope they can restore some of that goodwill that they used to have with the community. I don't think it's doomed. I just think if it goes the way that it keeps on going, that it will be. Just a lot of weird tension around the community and the studios and everything like that. I don't want to proclaim it doomed before it is, but like, just look at the numbers. Look at how angry people are about it. It's not looking good. Just straight up. Anyways, that's where I'm gonna leave this video. Thank you for watching. Thank you to all the channel members too. See you later.